Dark Knights of Steel issue 10, Tom Taylor writing with Yasmin Putri on the art. And it's been a while since the last issue, which I've said every time I've done one of these, the last like half of the book probably at this point. So we had the reveal of J'onn J'onzz. That's who Alfred actually was last issue. And here we find out on no uncertain terms that the real villains of this, who are trying to orchestrate this war to make Earth weaker, are the White Martians, who have decided they want to take over Earth. Interesting direction to take us in, I would say.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a nice subversion of the Green Man prophecy, though, and kind of it's it kind of reinforces that typical trope of a lot of prophecy things of it's not quite how you expect it.
It's true from a certain point of view.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's got a green ring on at the end, the leader, so he's kind of green.
Well, no, the Green Man of the prophecy was J'onn.
Yeah.
It wasn't Luther.
I know, but I'm saying from like an ironic point of view, like the leader of the White Martians is now green too, is technically.
Right.
Oh yeah, okay, sure, I'm with you.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, we got because they kill Lex at the end, the White Martians. We see them at the very end.
We don't need you anymore.
So can we assume that they've just been behind him, camouflaged, talking to him, and he thought it was the ring, or was the ring actually communicating with him? This is where I got confused a little.
I think
because them driving him mad into this Joker.
I think he was the ring, like the White Martians were the ring.
Okay.
Because it says, the final bit from the ring speech is, we can't allow someone as mad as you who thinks that an inanimate object speaks to him to have this much power.
I think it's a real Green Lantern ring though, because it lights up when he's wearing it at the end.
It has powers, but I don't think it talks to him like the way typical Green Lantern rings.
But Martians are also telepathic, so it's not so they're not even necessarily faking talking from the ring. Like they're just kind of talking in his head, and he's just.
But that was my thing. Right. Was the ring talking to him at any point, right? Or they took advantage of it, or was this their gamble the whole time? And every time the ring has talked to him, they've been close, camouflaged, and that's what's driven him mad.
I think they've been the ring the entire time.
Yeah. I mean, I like that because it subverts that Green Man prophecy, and it's them taking advantage of that prophecy. Right?
I mean, do they have to even be that close to do this? I don't know if they do. Maybe they can just do it from a distance.
I just like the idea that the guy draws the short straw, and he's the one that has to follow Luther around, talking to him all day,
That's your job. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically everyone sort of stops fighting. Bruce steps in and says, no, listen, like you have to try and like calm down, and uses the lasso on J'onn, and that kind of convinces everyone that he's telling the truth. Let's listen to what he has to say. So that's kind of the first half, and then a big chunk of the middle, of course, is J'onn telling the story of Mars, of what happened, like how it broke down.
Pretty typical to what we think of.
Yeah, pretty much.
But this with them, like they were the strong ones. It was kind of like a Spartan and Athens type thing, where the White Martians were this big physical presence, but the Green Martians, they were thinkers.
Yeah.
And that they developed their own downfall. Was that something that's always been part of that mythos with the White Martians? Or was that something that Taylor's added? Because I thought that little bit of tragedy.
I don't remember that specific detail.
Yeah.
I couldn't be sure to say it's never been there.
I mean, the White Martians have always been more aggressive, so saying they're the stronger ones doesn't feel like a much of a stretch based on...
No. But what I mean is that device that the Green Martians create, that J'onn creates, it's kind of that leads to their own downfall. That whole thing, I thought, added an extra level of tragedy.
I don't remember that specifically before.
Yeah. And then seeing what happens with his son.
Yeah,
that's
what I was going to get into, is that particular moment was darker than any sort of... I think any version I've seen of the how Mars fell story that J'onn has to give once in a while is I don't think I've seen a version that has this dark moment where like his dead wife walks in and the son just thinks it's his mom, and he's like, no, she died last month, remember? And then the Martian turns to a White Martian and just instantly kills the kid.
This is probably the most personal retelling of that.
Do you know what it made me think of? It made me think of that scene in Terminator where a Terminator infiltrates the human base and then just starts killing people. That's what this made me think of.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot more personal. Like the broad strokes are pretty much the same as always.
Mm-hmm.
This has a lot of. It's always been personal for Jean because he's one of the last survivors. It's always weighed on him. But this and he's always lost his family. But this here, having it be so brutal and to kind of go into his family's death so intimately as opposed to the normal telling that they kind of died in the war.
There is a nice little touch here though, that he says the Waynes knew what he was the whole time and they kept the secret and kept him safe because they knew everyone would hate him because of this prophecy about a green guy.
The green man.
So it does this nice humanization of them after the fact where we didn't really get to know them too much.
Well, it kind of lines up with them being as well, like almost a version of the Kents in this world, right?
So I like that. So no, this is definitely an interesting pivot to go on. I think the middle of the book, and maybe it was partly just because of the delays, but I did feel it was slogging in the middle a little bit, where it kind of felt like we were dancing around what it was really about, and now this issue's finally said, okay, here's what it's actually about. This is the war that's coming.
Maybe 12 issues plus the extra ones was too long. Maybe it should have been like maybe 8 plus those extra issues.
Yeah, so either 8 or 10 might have been a better fit. I think it was maybe just dragging the mystery out a little bit too much in the middle. But
I think this issue and last issue have been the best in a while.
Yeah.
We'll disagree there. So some of the bigger moments here that I like here too is when they're talking about getting all the queens together now, right? So like Diana's ascended because her mom died, and then you have Anissa, right, for the Storm King or the Queen, and you have Laura for them, and Ivy comes in, and they're got this little council. But when they talk about the prince who died, and then he goes, "Oh," John's like, "Yeah," or Constantine, "Yeah, about that," and he brings up, and they're like, "John, what have you done?" That moment right there, again, is another up there with Green Hell last week, with Constantine just having these moments
just pure shit
time. Yeah, that everyone's just like, oh my god, like yes, they're excited to see this kid, but at what cost? And what does that change now with these? Because you got to think that while these kingdoms are separate, they are a united front now against the White Martian, and it kind of gets into that Game of Thronesian type thing where they unite against the White Walkers.
Well, they should unite against the White Walkers, right? Whether or not they do,
right.
It's almost a shame there's only 2 issues left, because you could almost imagine like an extended story of them trying to because White Martians, because they can shapeshift into anyone, you could almost imagine like an interesting story of like them fighting this battle.
It's being a little bit body snatchers.
But a little bit body snatchers. Obviously, Marvel have done Secret Invasion, but this is
almost like a secret invasion.
But this is a little bit different though because of the time period. This is not modern day DC. This is this alternate fantasy setting. So, how do you fight an enemy that they can just hide as well as they can and can possibly trick you?
And maybe this is him writing for multiples like he did with Deceased, right? Like we'll get a part 2 that's more or less like maybe this doesn't end with a victory.
I could also maybe see it being like having that unkillable style spin-off mini of like,
that happens in between.
Here's this is set somewhere in the middle maybe, but we're gonna follow an infiltration group.
Maybe admittedly it's taken so long to because this should have been done a while ago now, but all the delays have made it really drag out. There's not the same kind of momentum for a second book right away, so I'm not sure how that would feel, but I could definitely see there being more story to tell if there is more planned. But
because you could almost do a whole a mini on Jean pretending to be Alfred and experiencing the different Clark and Bruce and Kara all growing up, and
I would almost say there is more potential for spin-offs from this world than there is the Deceased one, just because there's a lot wider scope to play with beyond everyone's kind of dead.
Fantasy versus zombies, right?
Exactly. And also though, I think if they did do a different mini afterwards, much like with Deceased, it might not necessarily be the same artist, That mini could be done and finished already, for all we know, like ready to go
very
when they want
possibly.
it. And they're kind of just waiting on this to wrap up and having a good time to announce it.
Right.
Yeah. Very possible.
Yeah.
But no, I did think this was one of the best issues of the book's had in a while. Obviously, because it had taken a little bit of time. It took me just a little bit, like a page or two to remember what happened last time.
and for all we're like complaining about the delays, which I think is fair to complain about, it has had a very consistent art, and I do think the art is still great.
Yeah. So no. All right, let's rate the book then. Matt, what are you giving Dark Knights of Steel?
I'm giving this a solid 8.
Connor?
Yeah, I'm going with 8.5 on this one. I really enjoyed it.
I'll go with. I will give it a 7.5.